Good morning, ASEANs. Fresh up your world, your thought, your idea with us every Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. I am Nirasha Malaysia.
And Amina Persit. It's Friday, the 16th of August, and we are still following on the latest violence in Egypt.
Right.
But this time looking at the reactions from different ASEAN governments, starting with Thailand, as the Thai Foreign Ministry yesterday has warned the Thais living in Egypt to stay in their homes as the violence continues, following a crackdown on supporters of the ousted President Mohamed Morsi. The Foreign Ministry spokesman Manatsawi Sodapon said at the Foreign Ministry in Bangkok that the Thai embassy in Cairo has coordinated with the Thai Students Association in Egypt and the leaders of the Thai communities to instruct their members to stay home and avoid leaving the residence for a while. The spokesman said that as of now, all Thais remain safe and none has asked to return to Thailand. On Wednesday night, the Egyptian government declared curfew in several cities to contain nationwide violence following security operations at the protesters' camps. It was reported that more than 600 people, including policemen, were killed in the operations. The Thai embassy in Cairo issued a warning statement urging Thai nationals to strictly avoid protest locations for their safety as violence continues. The Foreign Ministry spokesman also asked Thais who plan to travel to Egypt to closely monitor the situation, while expressing hope that the Egyptian government will be able to bring back the situation to normal as soon as possible.
And now let's have a look on the Filipino side perspective of the violence in Egypt, as yesterday the Philippines urged its 6,000 nationals in Egypt to leave the country after the worst violence in decades broke and left around 700 people dead. The Department of Foreign Affairs raised the alert level for the country to 3 due to the escalating civil unrest and insecurity, just below level 4, which calls for mandatory evacuations of Filipinos from a foreign country. It said that this entails the voluntary repatriations of Filipinos in Egypt, the deployment of new workers, as well as the return to Egypt of other Filipinos and their dependents is likewise suspended, adding that there were 6,000 Filipinos in Egypt. Foreign Department spokesman Raul Hernandez said that the Philippine embassy in Cairo would help repatriate any Filipinos who wish to depart. He did not give any details about that. More than 600 people were killed in nationwide violence sparked by a crackdown on the protest camps of supporters of ousted Islamist President Mohamed Morsi, Egyptian government officials said yesterday. About 10 million Filipinos, or 10% of the population, work abroad as managers, salespeople, seamen, laborers, drivers, and domestic helpers, earning larger salaries than they could get in their impoverished home country. And in the recent years, the Philippines has had to repatriate its nationals from Syria, Libya, and the capital of Yemen as well, due to the unrest into those countries. And Muslim-majority Malaysia has also strongly advised all its nationals to defer all non-essential travel to Egypt, including Indonesia.
And now let's look at Malaysia, as the Malaysian government has also advised its citizens to avoid traveling to Egypt during the state of emergency. But meanwhile, there are hundreds of Malaysians joined in worldwide protests condemning the violent crackdown on supporters of the ousted President of Egypt. They gathered outside the Egyptian embassy in Kuala Lumpur, calling for the immediate halt in violence and Morsi's reinstatement. Many were saddened and angered by the military crackdown on protesters loyal to Morsi. Their frustration was targeted at Egypt's army chief Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Morsi appears to enjoy the support of many Malaysians. They recognize him as a democratically elected leader and blame the West for practicing double standards in upholding democracy. While many Malaysians are condemning the killing in Egypt, the Malaysian government has urged the Egyptian authorities to exercise restraint. Prime Minister Najib is calling on all sides to cease hostilities and work towards a peaceful solution, while former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad said the Egyptians have themselves to blame. He said emotions are very high and these people have got no experience of democracy. They tend to take to the streets. If one party goes up, the other party takes to the streets. This party goes up, the party will come out and take to the streets. There's a lack of understanding of democracy is all about. A letter was handed to Egyptian embassy officials at the end of the hour-long protests. The Malaysian government, meanwhile, had advised its citizens to avoid traveling to Egypt during this time.
Another related development of Egypt, convener from the Turkish side as well, has urged the UN to step in to help and to arrange the situations, and also the French president also called the Egyptian ambassador to have a talk about this unrest situation. And now let's have a look at Myanmar, as a committee to look into establishing a capital market in Myanmar will be set up this year, according to officials from Finance Ministry. Myanmar has recently opened up its economy to foreign investment as the country began a transition from military dictatorship to civilian government in 2011. It is now seeking to establish a capital market with the help of Japan's Daiwa Institute of Research. Myanmar Deputy Finance Minister Myung Tien said that the capital, which is expected to be brought about this year, is very important for the country's economic development. Having a capital market will enable the entrepreneurs to get access to wider sources of finance. The Deputy Minister said that the committee's role is to firstly set up necessary infrastructure, after which it will educate the public about the capital market and the listing requirements for public companies. Myanmar is also preparing to establish the country's very first stock exchange in 2015 with the help of Tokyo Stock Exchange. It has passed the Security Exchange Law on July 31st as the first step towards bringing about capital markets.
The real estate prices in Myanmar has been considerably very high, and let's go see the factors behind this in Myanmar Focus Daily.
From property consultancy Colliers International Thailand and Myanmar have outlined 4 main reasons causing the high prices of real estates in Myanmar. And Myanmar Focus Daily will have the details on this story in this episode.
The first reasons the analysts mentioned is the tremendous demand for office spaces and hotels, but the supply is very limited and lacks of quality.
You look at offices and hotels, there's been no real new supply since 1998. That's a long time. It's 15 years in a pretty static market. So suddenly there's this new demand, and property market historically responds slowly because it takes 2 to 3 years to build a building of any size. So you have this gap now. So we're beginning to see new supply come online, but not a huge amount, but enough to absorb some of this over demand, if you like.
Another analyst from Colliers also pointed out the limited infrastructure and transportation as another factor that brings the prices of office space and hotel rooms up in Yangon in particular.
Yeah, I think it's also one of the issues is one thing about Yangon that's very interesting is and compared to, say, Bangkok. In Bangkok, you have obviously prime areas, like, say, Wireless Road, etc. And then once you move away from that, the price of land goes down, but not dramatically. Because, if you're on the BTS and you're a few stops away, it's not so, sometimes it's more attractive for some people. So the prices go down, but not dramatically. In Yangon, because there's limited infrastructure, there's limited sort of decent roads, the public transport is very poor, you don't have motorbikes because they're banned, then certain areas are very prime. So downtown is prime, and along the main arterial roads is also prime. Once you get away from these areas, it becomes far less attractive for most real estate. It basically means you don't have access to the main roads, the bus lines, the facilities, the various facilities. So it becomes far less attractive, and then land price drops quite dramatically.
However, for land, prices are high even though people are not transacting that much. It is more of local to local transaction because it is a form of investment for Myanmar citizens.
And our explanation is that at the moment there are so few investment alternatives for wealthy Myanmar citizens that they tend to see land as a safe investment. They're not really always looking at the development potential. They're often looking at it as a store of wealth.
Yet, land prices around special economic zones, especially the Lawa special economic zone on the outskirts of Yangon, have been increased due to development or agreements to develop the areas.
But land prices tend to be, in all these type of frontier markets, they go up and down quite dramatically on the basis that something's going to happen in that area. So when someone says a bridge is going to be built on the other side, that's going to connect the other side, the prices go up dramatically to reflect that, and we see that a lot in these markets.
Next episode, we will look at the price inflation in other areas of Myanmar apart from Yangon, the new supply coming to the market, the projection of real estate market in the future, as well as suggestions for investors in coping with this issue. Aravitang Misang reports.
And coming up next after the break, we're going to updates on the 45th ASEAN Economic Minister meeting, which will be held this Sunday. Stay tuned.
Thailand's 343 billion baht central budget for the 2014 has sailed through the House despite opposition's attack on the government's inefficient spending last year. The House voted to 291 to 126 to pass Article 4 of the 2014 budget bill on the allocation of the central budget. During the deliberation, Democrat MP Wachalat Phetthong pointed out that the government had used 600 million baht in all to curb anti-government rallies, 200 million to control the Pitaksayam protest last year, and 400 million baht to deal with the rallies against the amnesty bill. He also said 2 billion baht of the national budget had been spent to compensate and rehabilitate the red shirt protesters who took part in the 2010 political turmoil, while 10 billion baht was earmarked for Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawat's trips overseas. In defense, Foreign Minister Surapong Tawichakchaikun said the PM's trips were not for pleasure, but to promote Thai businesses and tourism, which would contribute a lot more compared to the cost of the trips. However, Democratic Bangkok MP Witlat Chan Pitak presented different numbers, citing a document from the PM's office. He called into question the 340 million baht budget approved for police and military operations to provide security during the Pitaksayam rally in November last year.
And this coming Sundays, the 10 ASEAN economic ministers will meet in Brunei for a 4-day meeting to discuss about trade issues and deepening economic integrations in the Southeast Asia. The 45th ASEAN Economic Ministers Meeting, or AEM, will take place from August 18 to 21st at the International Convention Center in Brunei. Aspirations towards fulfilling the ASEAN economic community will be of major significance during the AEM and related meetings. Ministers will look into ASEAN's progress in implementing economic integrations commitments outlined in the AEC blueprint, which was signed by leaders at the ASEAN Summit in Singapore. The key agenda of the meeting will be reviewing the ASEAN's progress towards the goal of a single regional market by 2015, as well as the region's overall economic growth and progress in liberalizing trade of goods, services, and investment. ASEAN leaders have said that progress on the ASEAN Economic Community blueprints is 76% complete, but that the hardest targets still need to be addressed. In previous ASEAN summits, ASEAN leaders agreed to accelerate the development of the AEC by 2015 and transform ASEAN into a region with free movement of goods, services, investments, skilled labor, and free flow of capital. The AEC will also cover competitions policy, intellectual property rights, infrastructure development, taxations, e-commerce, SMEs development, current approach towards external economic relations regarding free trade agreements and treaties, and enhanced participation in global supply networks. The ASEAN Business Investment, or Third ASEAN Investment Forum, and Fifth ASEAN China Young Entrepreneurs Forum will also be held during the AEM. After the AEM, Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, ministerial meeting and the 19th negotiations round will take place from August 22nd to 31st. Trade ministers from Asia-Pacific countries will be meeting here to discuss the proposed free trade pact, which includes Australia, Brunei, Chile, Canada, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, the United States, Vietnam, and most recently, Japan.
Brunei has recently become a very attractive place for many Malaysians to visit, as the country was the fourth biggest tourism market from Malaysia in the first quarter of this year, with about 330,000 visits from January to March, according to the data from the Tourism Malaysia. Malaysian tourist arrivals from Brunei, which saw a growth of 13.5% during the period, trails Singapore with 3.22 million arrivals, Indonesia with 630,000, and China with about 490,000. In March alone, Malaysia had about 126,000 arrivals from Brunei, an uptick from the 125,000 visits in the same month last year. China ousted Brunei from the third position the Sultanate held at the end of 2012, when 1.25 million footfalls to Malaysia made it the third biggest tourism market. Brunei's full-year count for 2012 was up 1.5% from the previous year, when Malaysia saw 1.23 million visits from Bruneians. In terms of its share of the Malaysian tourism pie, Brunei has kept its contribution at 5% of total arrivals to Malaysia. Brunei, a country with around 400,000 people, is surrounded by Malaysia's state of Sarawak, and there are 4 immigration posts between the two: Brunei Miri, Brunei Limbang, Limbang Temburong, Temburong, and Temburong Lawas.
And that's it, the time we have for today. Stay tuned with us again, same time, same place, same channel. I am Nirasha Malaysak Lumia.
And we now thank you so much for joining. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ